Welcome to the Explainer. I am so incredibly excited to share this one with you today. We're looking at House Beaumont. And honestly, they aren't just another wealthy family in the lore of Scion. They're this absolutely fascinating case study in how to conquer an entire kingdom without ever raising a standing army. Forget the stone castles, forget the armored knights. Today is all about the sweet, ruthless power of sugar. So, let's jump right in. Okay, let's kick things off with a pretty massive accusation. The Gondorian historian, Lord General Varnius, famously wrote this about them. And this quote instantly sets up the big question we're tackling today. Is this harsh critique actually true? Are the Beaumonts really just honorless merchants buying their way to the top? Or is this simply the bitter jealousy of a traditional military power realizing they're kind of becoming obsolete? To answer that, just look at their heraldry and the specific visual story they're telling the world. On the sides, you have two elephants acting as supporters, which symbolizes immense strength, memory, and prosperity. But right in the center, there isn't a sword, there isn't a shield. It's a black windmill representing industry and refinement, planted directly over green fields of sugarcane. And then you read the Latin motto at the bottom, Dulcis est potentia, which literally translates to sweet is power. I mean, they're telling you exactly who they are right on the tin. And when you look at this timeline, their ascent is absolutely staggering. Back in 180 AE, the founder, Jeremy Beaumont, washes up on the shores of Scion as a 15-year-old Zartan immigrant farmer, fleeing with just his mother and sister. He literally starts by working a farm and hustling sugar on the docks. Fast forward a mere 25 years to 205 AE, and he hasn't just made a fortune. He's married Princess Janine of Scion and been officially ennobled by the king. Within a couple of generations, they locked down a permanent maritime trade agreement with House Harrow, from immigrant farmers to literal royalty in the blink of an eye. But here's the really crucial part. It's all about how they used that newly minted power. They completely rejected traditional noble aesthetics. While other houses were busy building towering stone castles to project military strength, the Beaumonts went a totally different route. They displayed their dominance through these sprawling, unfortified white plantation estates, complete with red-tiled roofs and massive verandas that you could see right from the sea. They controlled 25,000 acres of prime land along the sugar coast, worked by 4,000 people. It was a pure, unfiltered projection of comfort, productivity, and total economic dominance. And the guy who built that economic machine was Lord Augustine, famously known as the Prince of Commerce. He pioneered 3 brilliant commercial steps that locked down their absolute monopoly over the sugar trade. First, he set up direct contracts with Zardian buyers, cutting out the middlemen and instantly boosting profits by 40%. Second, he created these sugar cooperatives, pulling the harvests from smaller planters and, of course, taking a cut of everything. Third, he invented a quality grading system, fine, standard, coarse, that became the universal industry standard. This wasn't just farming anymore, guys. This was an incredibly sophisticated corporate empire. But, as we know, building an empire that fast comes with massive house-destroying risks. Which brings us to our first major shift, extravagance and ruin, the darker chapter of their history. So, let's look at the missteps. You've got Generation 5, Lord Guillaume I, also known as the Peacock. He built the Grand White Manor, sure, but he threw such extravagant feasts that he nearly bankrupted the entire family, forcing them into heavy debt with House Harrow. Then you have huge political blunders, like Etienne I, whose botched marriage alliance with House Ludwig kicked off a multi-generational Cold War. But worst of all was Lord Julian, the Judas. In 445 AE, driven entirely by envy, he secretly plotted to sell out the sugar coast to the Gondorian Empire. He was caught and executed in 450, but his horrific treason brought the whole house to the absolute brink of ruin. So who actually saves them from this catastrophic downward spiral? Well, it was Lady Beatrice Beaumont, universally known as the Sugar Queen. She married into the royal Scion family, masterfully managed the finances to pay off her father's crippling debts, and literally saved the house from total financial collapse. And when her royal husband died early, she didn't step back. She wielded ultimate power, ruling all of Scion as regent for 12 years. She famously proved that a woman might not carry a sword, but she can absolutely carry the scales of justice and the keys to the treasury. And her incredible recovery paved the way for the true pinnacle of their dominance. Let's move on to part 2, the Sugar Prince and a genuinely staggering fortune. Under Philippe II, arguably the richest man in Sion's entire history, their wealth exploded. I really want to emphasize this number, 300 tons of gold. And get this, that wasn't even his total net worth. That was purely what he held in reserve. His personal fortune sat at around 5 million gold crowns. To put that into perspective, that is enough liquid cash to single-handedly buy a small kingdom or completely fund the crown's military for 5 whole years. It's just mind-boggling. And when you break down their massive 50,000 args per year in revenue, you start to see the vulnerability here. Despite all their modernization and global trade networks, they are fundamentally completely reliant on the sweet stuff. 70% of their revenue comes directly from sugar and its derivatives, 20% from rent on those vast lands, and 10% from shipping and letting other merchants use the prestigious Beaumont name on their labels. Basically, if you take away the sugar, the whole empire crumbles. Which perfectly brings us to part 3, alliances and enemies, and the ruthless geopolitical reality of House Beaumont. I mean, how do you protect a golden empire built entirely on a single crop from the wolves that are constantly at your door? You do it through deeply, deeply strategic relationships. Look at this stark contrast. On the one hand, you have House Harrow. This is an unshakable, highly profitable maritime bond that basically unites the sugar and rum trades, all cemented by an ironclad double marriage alliance. They literally share a navy. But on the other hand, you have House Ludwig, a highly militaristic house with whom the Beaumonts have been locked in a multi-generational, blood-soaked feud ever since that failed marriage we talked about back in 375 AE. It's a constant, high-stakes game of chess. Which brings us right to the present day, the year 480 AE. House Beaumont is currently led by Lord Theobald V, appropriately known as the Cautious, and he perfectly embodies their modern, pragmatic philosophy. He completely avoids open war with the Ludwigs, relies heavily on cautious diplomacy, maintains that crucial double Harrow marriage, strictly protects the sugar monopoly, and above all else, he keeps the coin flowing. But here's where we pull back the curtain on something truly wild. This right here is the sugar ledger. It's their darkest secret, kept locked in a vault beneath White Monarch and passed only from lord to heir. This reveals that their true power isn't actually just sugar. It is the weaponized blackmail of every major player in Cyan. They have meticulously recorded every bribe to crown officials, they hold leverage over House Blackmere's slave trade abuses, and they even documented a 5,000 crown payoff to exile a royal bastard in 425 AE, a secret that could literally topple the Cyan dynasty if it ever saw the light of day. It completely changes how you view them, doesn't it? The beautiful white manors, the lush green fields, that shiny golden heraldry, it's all a carefully constructed front for a ruthless pragmatism. And it's perfectly captured in this chilling quote attributed to the founder himself. "We sell sweetness, but we are not sweet." So I want to leave you with a final provocative question to chew on. As we've traced their incredible rise from teenage immigrant farmers to the richest lords in the realm, secretly holding the fate of kings in a hidden ledger, what do you think? Are trade and blackmail ultimately stronger than swords and castles? Is the Beaumont method the true path to ruling a kingdom? Let that sink in. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I really hope you never look at sugar the same way again.